Hello, assalamu alaikum.
Hi, hi.
Welcome everyone back to another talk session with Cisse Maya. My next topic is how to deal with criticism and use it to improve. My first question is, Maya, what is the difference between criticism and feedback?
Good question, Umar. They're often used interchangeably, but there's a pretty big difference. Feedback is usually specific, focused on behavior, and aims to help someone grow. It's like, hey, when you did X, Y happened, and maybe next time try Z. Criticism, on the other hand, tends to be more general, judgmental, and often focuses on the person rather than the action. It's more like, you always do X wrong. Does that make sense?
Why do people take criticism personally?
That's a really good point, and honestly, it's super common. I think it boils down to a few things. Firstly, our sense of self is delicate, right? Criticism can feel like an attack on who we are, not just what we did. It triggers that fight or flight response. Secondly, a lot of it has to do with how it's delivered. The tone, the setting, even our past experiences with criticism shape how we react. Finally, if someone's already feeling insecure, any negative input, even constructive, can land pretty hard. What do you think? Does that resonate with you?
Yes, yes. How can someone stay calm when receiving criticism?
Okay, so staying calm is the hard part, isn't it? First, actively listen without interrupting. I know that's tough, but it gives you space to process. Then try to separate the message from the messenger. Focus on the content, not who's saying it. Deep breaths help, cliche as it sounds. And honestly, it's okay to ask for clarification. Like, can you give me a specific example? Sometimes that softens the blow and makes it less vague. It also buys you time to compose yourself. But honestly, it's also okay to say, I need a moment to process this. Don't feel pressured to respond immediately.
Yes, yes, you are right. My next question is, what
Go ahead.
mindset helps people handle criticism better?
Okay, so this is where it gets a little more philosophical, I guess. A growth mindset is huge. Believing that your abilities aren't fixed and that you can actually improve with effort makes criticism feel less threatening. It shifts the focus from I'm a failure to, okay, this is something I can learn from. Seeing criticism as information rather than a personal attack is key. Also, practicing self compassion helps. Being kind to yourself, even when you mess up. Basically, if you believe in your ability to grow, criticism becomes a tool, not a weapon. Does that click?
Why is criticism important for growth?
Well, Umar, if you only ever did things exactly the same way, you wouldn't really evolve, would you? Criticism, when it's constructive, points out blind spots. It challenges you to re examine your approach and find better ways of doing things. It's like a coach telling an athlete what they need to work on. It's uncomfortable, maybe, but it's necessary to improve. Ignoring criticism means potentially staying stuck in old patterns, missing opportunities to learn, and ultimately limiting your potential. It forces you to confront your weaknesses, which is honestly the first step to making them strengths.
What are signs of constructive criticism?
Good question. Knowing what to look for can make a huge difference. Constructive criticism is usually specific. It points to a particular behavior or outcome, not a general character flaw. It's focused on improvement, not blame. It's delivered respectfully, even if it's direct. It's often framed as, I noticed, or have you considered rather than you always. And crucially, It often includes suggestions for how to do things differently. If it leaves you feeling motivated rather than defeated, that's a pretty good sign it's constructive. Does that line up with what you've experienced?
What are signs of destructive criticism?
Okay, so the flip side. Destructive criticism is usually vague and generalized. Think, you're just not good at this. It's often personal and attacks your character, not your actions. It's delivered with hostility or condescension. It focuses on blame and doesn't offer solutions. It leaves you feeling demoralized, ashamed, or angry. It's frequently delivered publicly rather than privately. Basically, if it feels like someone is trying to tear you down instead of build you up, that's a red flag. It's often about the critic's need to feel superior rather than your actual growth. Does that sound right?
Yes. My next question is, how should someone respond to unfair criticism?
Ugh, unfair criticism. That's the worst. Okay, first, take a deep breath and don't get immediately defensive. Then calmly state your perspective. Something like, I understand your point, but I see it differently because of X, Y, and Z. Focus on the facts, not emotions. If the criticism is completely unfounded, you can politely but firmly push back. You can say, I respectfully disagree. You're not obligated to accept unfair criticism, but try to handle it with grace. Sometimes simply acknowledging their perspective without agreeing is enough to de escalate the situation. Ultimately, protecting your own well being is the priority. What do you think about that approach?
Very good, excellent idea.
Ah,
How can
good.
how can someone avoid becoming defensive?
Okay, avoiding defensiveness, that's a skill for sure. It starts with self-awareness, recognizing when you're starting to get triggered. Pausing before you respond is huge. Literally, take a beat. Remind yourself that criticism isn't necessarily a personal attack. Try to genuinely understand the other person's perspective, even if you don't agree with it. And practice active listening, paraphrasing what they said to make sure you understand. It's about creating space between the stimulus and your response so you can react thoughtfully instead of impulsively. It takes practice, though. Don't beat yourself up if you slip up. Does that make sense?
Why is active listening important when receiving criticism?
Because it forces you to actually, hear what the other person is saying instead of just preparing your rebuttal in your head. When you truly listening, you're less likely to misinterpret their intentions or jump to conclusions. It demonstrates respect, which can de escalate the situation. And it helps you identify the core issue so you can address it effectively. It's also a way to signal to the other person that, you're open to hearing them out, even if you disagree. Essentially, it turns a potential conflict into a conversation. It's kind of magical when it works.
How can someone ask clarifying questions to understand criticism better?
Okay, so instead of getting immediately defensive, you can steer the conversation towards understanding. Instead of saying, that's not true, try things like, can you give me a specific example of what you mean? Or what impact did that have? Or even, what would a better approach look like, in your opinion? Open ended questions are your friend here, ones that can't be answered with just a yes or no. And don't be afraid to ask for clarification on anything you don't understand. It shows you're engaged and genuinely trying to improve. It's basically turning a potential attack into a collaborative problem solving session.
How can someone control their emotions in the moment?
Oof, that's the $1,000,000 question, right? It's tough. First, acknowledge your feelings. Don't try to suppress them completely. That usually backfires. Name it, okay, I'm feeling frustrated right now. Then use those breathing exercises we talked about earlier. Seriously, deep, slow breaths can work wonders. Grounding techniques can help too, like focusing on your five senses. What do you see, hear, smell, taste, feel? Shifting your focus outward can help
Okay,
calm your
thank you,
internal
Maya. I
storm.
really want to listen more and ask you more questions, but time is up. And everyone else for watching, thank you. I'll see you in the next session.